All right, Rabotai, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to our Wednesday class on Yalkut Yosef. Today we are going to touch Siman Reish Nun Gimel, 253. So what are we going to discuss over here? Putting food on a stove, or we're going to talk about putting it in a plata. Maybe we'll discuss also putting it in the oven as well. What are the differences if it's fully cooked, if it's not fully cooked, liquid, solid, what is allowed to? Once I put it on, took it off, am I allowed to put it back on? A little bit of these dinim regarding cooking on Shabbat. All right. So what is the fear of putting, let's say, a pot on coals? Right? Back in the day, there was no plata. There were coals. So what's the problem with putting a pot on a coals, and why would that be a problem? And why is a plata a solution? So first of all, there's something called in halacha michze kemvashel. Michze means it appears like, mevashel, cooking. There are certain things that you do that even if you're going to cook, not cook, doesn't matter. It appears to the eye like you are cooking. Once you do an action that appears to the eye like you are cooking, it's forbidden. So um even if you have like a tendency to make sure that you're not going to cook, I'm going to put it on the coals, but I'm not going to let it, let's say it's liquid. I'm not going to let it boil or something like that. I'm going to take it off before it boils. I just want to warm it up a little bit. It doesn't work like that. The fact that you put something on coals already has problem number one. Michzek in the shed. It appears like you are cooking. So why am I allowed to put stuff on plata? Plata also warms up food. The answer is, anybody know what the answer is? Why is a plata okay? It also warms up the food. The answer is in the question, because a plata is not an item of cooking. No one cooks with a plata today. A plata is there
There's
for
no
Shabbat,
allowed.
to warm up the food. But there's no michzek and vashel. There's no appearance of cooking when you use the plata. And therefore, if the item is already fully cooked, or etc., all the restrictions that we're going to talk about or we've spoken about before, then a plata would be okay. So that's the first restriction. Michzek and vashel. Johnny Baruch haba. But there's another thing. Besides the appearance of cooking, there's also another fear when you use coals. What's the fear? The fear is that during Shabbat, let's say you see the coals are weakening and you're worried that your food is not going to be hot, not going to be cooked. There's a fear that you're going to take some sort of wood or stick or whatever it is and hit the coals a little bit so that they regain flame. By doing that, you will do a melacha havara of burning on Shabbat, which obviously is forbidden. But you could say, no, I'm very careful. I'm not going to do that. I have I'm aware. It doesn't matter if you're aware or not aware. Once you use coals on Shabbat, there's a fear that that may happen and you may forget. There's a famous story in the Gemara about Ishmael Kohen Gadol, Rabbi Ishmael, the great Kohen, the Kohen Gadol, that the Chachamim said that you are not allowed to read halachot, books, whatever it is, next to the Shabbat candles. Why? Shema Yateh, because you may come to tilt the candle on Shabbat because it's going to be a little dark. You're going to go like that. That's reflaming the flame. That's forbidden. What did Rabbi Ishmael, the Kohen Gadol, imagine the level of this person, one of the Asara Rugei Malchut, the 10 people that died for kapara for the Jews for selling Yosef, which is another story for another time, Bezat Hashem. But whoever, he was a very high level, and he said, no, ani akra velo ateh. It's okay. Other people, you restrict them, they're not so familiar with the halacha. But for me, I'm able to read next to the Shabbat candles, and definitely I'm not going to tilt it. And bottom line is that he came to read, and he tilted the candle when it got dark. It was a reflex. It just happened. And he took out his pinkas, his diary, and wrote down, Ani chatati, I sinned, ukshibane bet hamikdash, avi chatat shmena. When the bet mikdash is going to be rebuilt, I will bring a fat sacrifice to Hashem. Why am I telling you this story? To see that no matter how great you are, there's certain things that Chachamim understood that there's a danger that you may do. And if you're going to use coals, besides the fear that people may think that you're cooking because it looks like cooking, there's also a fear like you may play with the gichalim, with the coals, and start a fire. So a plata solves that to us because a plata does not have a temperature game, right? If it would be an item that does have a game of temperature, then you have to eliminate it or put a sticker on it. Don't touch on Shabbat, that part, right? But the plata is definitely not michzik in vashel. It doesn't appear. So there are no coals, and it doesn't appear like you're cooking, and that's why we are okay with the plata. This is a very important foundation to understand these two fears. So if we sum it up, I want you to remember this. One of them is michzik in vashel. It appears like you are cooking, and soon we're going to see the difference between a plata and an oven. All right. And so one of them is it seems like you're cooking, and the other one is you may come to touch the coals. So those are the two fears that the Gemara talks about.
Leave a question. Didn't we learn that? Didn't you tell us that if the light is on, then you could do something to keep it on longer? Or I guess it's different.
You're talking
I
about
was gonna say if like
Shabbat
I was
pot.
gonna say if there is a temperature gauge, can you use it since it's already on? But I guess it's a different. It's not the same as extending the time.
Yeah, it's a little bit different to the extreme that if one area of the plata is hotter than the other, let's say, as I think we spoke about this, the frame is a little bit cooler, the center is a little hotter. And if you had liquid that was put on the plata, let's say before Shabbat, and it's still not boiling, and you want to fasten the boiling, so you move it from the side to the center, that's mamasha isur Shabbat. Because you could have done it before Shabbat, but once Shabbat is in, you're not allowed to do anything to increase the temperature, to increase the speed of the cooking. It's a little bit like mixing the coals. You're trying to speed the cooking. Over there, you're also creating a fire. So here, you're not creating a fire, but the action of speeding the cooking will be forbidden. So you cannot move the liquids around. The solids that have been cooked, yeah, because the halacha is according to all opinions. With solids, it's a consensus. There's no cooking after cooking. So once something has been cooked and it's a solid, then you can't recook it. So if you can move it from a place that's a little warmer to hotter, that's perfectly fine. But with liquids, since we have a big machloket, and the Shulchan Aruch holds that there is cooking with liquid that was cooked before. You boil the soup, it cooled off, now I'm putting it on the plata. Once it reboils, it's considered a new cooking, according to Sephardim. According to Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam holds a little bit different, but we don't hold like him the halacha. We are more strict. We're like the Shulchan Aruch, and therefore you cannot move the liquid from the side of the plata to the center unless it was already boiling. What's boiling? That's another question. Boiling, the definition of Chachamim is a temperature that a stomach of a baby will be burnt, right? But like we're gonna bring a baby to test it on the stomach. So this is broad. How do you know what temperature that is? So there are different opinions between 45 Celsius to 70, 71 Celsius. So anywhere in between, you have to be strict. But if you are above, if you put some sort of way to understand that the temperature in the pot is already above 71 Celsius, then you could move it around to the center, no problem, because everybody agrees that now it's considered cooked. But between 45 to 71, you're not sure if it's cooked or not, so don't move it around. And under 45, it's definitely not cooked. All right, so that was that. Another important thing we need to learn about a plata is דיני החזרה, the halachot of returning something to the plata. Hey, I already had it on the plata. It was already warm. I just took it out to feed people. Can I put it back on the plata? So what are the restrictions? So let's start with the easy things. If it's a solid item that is fully cooked, are there any restrictions regarding putting back on the plata? No, we just said that. Once solid is cooked, there's no recooking it. So you could take it off and put it on the plata with no restrictions as much as you want. That's the easier part, assuming that it's fully cooked, yeah? Not if it's not fully cooked, okay? But if it's a liquid that you took off the plata, in order for you to return it, you need a few restrictions. One of them is that it still has to be hot, meaning if you return it where it already cooled off, then you're going to be cooking it. Another restriction is that you did not put it on the ground. It's not ground like us. Marble is not ground. But back in the day, let's say they had sand in the house. They would put the pot on the sand. Why? Because that showed they're done with cooking. So once they put it down, if they come and put it back on to the plata or to the flame, whatever it is, then it shows that, hey, I'm cooking again because I decided I'm not cooking. So that would be a problem. Ashkenazim don't have that rule. They don't have the restriction of putting it on the ground. They hold that as long as it's not cold, you could return it. But on the other hand, they do have a different restriction that you have to have kavana when you took it off the plata. So let's differentiate. Every side has a leniency and a strictness. The Sfardim are lenient.
Sorry, Ziv. I maybe I missed the part. Like, so if you put it at nighttime after Friday night, you put it in the fridge, and then in the morning you put it on the plata. It's cold, and then you put it on the plata. So you're not allowed to do it.
Wait, is it solid or liquid?
Liquid. I'm talking.
Okay, so solid we know we're allowed to. Liquid, it depends what type of liquid. If the majority is solid and it's just, let's say, fish with a little sauce on the bottom that is not ikal, the Yalkut Yosef brings that it's not. The dry halacha is majority. If the majority is not liquid, already you're allowed to. It's considered solid. He says, but better to be strict, and even if it's not the majority that's liquid, but the liquid has a strong presence.
Like a nice choresh.
Choresh has a strong presence of liquid.
I like it very watery. So.
Yeah. So in that case, the right way to put it on the plata in the morning is one of two ways. The way that is recommended in the halacha is to have a Shabbat clock, so that when you put it on the plata was not hot yet. And then it started getting heated through grama, through something that happened later. And that we allow. We allow that because there is an opinion by the Rambam that it's not even considered cooking liquids once it was cooked once. We don't hold by that halacha, but we lean on that halacha to do it through grama, to do it through putting it on the plata when it is still cold. So you have to have a Shabbat clock. For example, I put my Shabbat clock at 9 o'clock in the morning, and when I woke up, when I go to shul beforehand, I put the liquids on the plata, and then when 9, it turns on, no problem. Another alternative, which is much more common in America, not so much in Israel, to use a goy. You're also allowed to use a goy, even if it's already hot, the plata, you're allowed to tell a goy, please put the pot on the plata. Why? Again, since there's that opinion of the Rambam, that we're not going to do it directly because we don't rely on that opinion, but we do rely on it to do it through a goy or through a grama. Grama means in
so strictly, you cannot just take it from the fridge and put it on the plata if you turn on the plata.
If the majority is liquid, no. If the majority is liquid, according to Sfaradim, no. That's a restriction that we have. Yeah. Okay. So I was summing up the differences of where are we strict and where the Ashkenazim strict regarding returning to the plata. We are strict that once it touched the ground, today, when are you ever going to touch the ground? Let's say you have a plata somewhere and around you there's a ground and you put the pot on the ground, even if it's still hot, you can't put it back on the plata, right? That's a restriction. But on the other hand, if it is hot, if I didn't put it on the ground, I could still return it. According to the Ashkenazim, it doesn't need to still be hot. As long as it's not cold, meaning it doesn't have to stay boiling. Even as long as it's not cold, I could return it. But when I took it off the plata, they hold that I have to have in mind that I'm going to return it. So if I took it off and no, I'm done, and then all of a sudden, you know what? Oh, more kids want, I can't put it back because I didn't have it in mind. So each side has a leniency and restrictions. Okay. So over here now he's gonna differentiate between lach and yavesh. Lach and yavesh is the liquids and the solids. So we already touched this, by the way. So what does it mean, liquid? So he says, generally, when we say we're forbidding you to put liquid, it means the majority. But as I said before, if it has significance, let me give you an example. If I have, let's say, a choresh, as Johnny was saying, even if the water is not over 50%, let's say you have a lot of greens or whatever it is in their caps, but at the end of the day, the water is significant. Says the Yalkut Yosef, better not. You're allowed to, Minaddini says, because it's not a majority, but better also to do that through Roshon Shabbat or through a goy. Okay? But there's another type of liquid where it's just, a chicken with a little bit of oil on the bottom. It's not ikar, it's not a main thing, it's definitely not the majority. Then you don't have to think twice, you could consider that fully solid. All right. Now, if my plata turned off, and I'm saying, oh my God, I have guests. What am I going to do? So I want to run my food to the neighbor to put it on his plata so that when the guests come, the food is hot. Can I do that or can I not? So let's start with the easy part. If it's solid and fully cooked, no question. There's no recooking solids. Therefore, I could take it to the neighbor and no problem. But if it's liquid, I can only transfer it to his plata that is already on, only if it's already yad solidbo. The hand removes itself, meaning it's as hot as we explained before, over 71 Celsius. That would be the way to do it. He says, but if you didn't know that, and you put it on the plata, and after 20 minutes the plata turned off, you didn't know it's not boiling yet. You just ran right away to the neighbor. When you got to the neighbor, you touched the pot on the outside and said, oh my God, I put it on the plata, but it wasn't even hot. Sfaradim don't allow this. What do I do now? Halacha is, if you already did something, that's called bidi avad. Bidi avad, we rely on that Rambam. That Rambam that says that when it comes even to liquids, there's no cooking after cooking. L'katchila, don't do that. Only transfer it if it's boiling. But if you already did it, you could rely on. And this happens when you're a guest at someone's house. A lot of people are not so familiar with these halachot regarding choleshim, and that if it's the majority is liquid, you cannot put it without a goy or without a shon Shabbat. B'diavad, if they already did it, we are allowed to enjoy it even while it's warm because we rely on that Rambam.
Ziv, when you say the water is cooking, you mean like the water is boiling?
As I said before, 71 Celsius.
Sorry, I missed the beginning. That's
sorry. So yeah, 71 Celsius would be the temperature that everybody agrees that that's considered cooked. Between 45 to 71, there's a machloket. Is this already considered boiling? So you have to be strict.
I mean the temperature of the plata.
Yeah.
But it's not about the water if it's boiling or not. It's about the temperature of the plata.
No, not the plata. The temperature of the food.
The
water.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a little bit hard to.
How do you know the temperature of water?
It's hard to know what it is. But say you see bubbles coming out. Your plata is very strong. If bubbles are coming out, you already this is hot. This is
boiling. Okay, so you're not allowed to do that.
Right. No. So if it's already boiling, then I could transfer it to my friend's plata because I won't be taking something that's not cooked and cooked it. But if it's not boiling, according to, this is where we need to use our discretion. What is 71 temperature? That's why it's a little bit gray territory. Like, I don't measure temperature on Shabbat. How am I going to know? So if you have a goy, the best thing to do would be through a goy. America, it's much easier. You have a lot of goyim around.
Okay. Is it okay to carry on Shabbat to your neighbor?
If there is a iruv. In Great Neck, there's a iruv.
Iruv is
the string that they put around. Yeah. At least according to, to most opinions. Some people are strict not to carry. But the dry halacha is that we rely on the iruv and we are allowed to carry. Yeah.
Okay.
When there's no iruv, of course, you can't carry. You can't even carry a key. There's a lot of restrictions. Yeah. That happens when, let's say, you go to like a vacation on an island that definitely doesn't have an iruv, then it would be a problem. All right. Am I allowed to add water to the cholesh? Let's say Johnny's a famous cook and Johnny made a beautiful cholesh and he took it off the plata and he notices that a lot of the water, evaporated and he wants to make it more liquidy for the guests. He likes it liquidy. Can he take water from the samaval, boiling water, he pours it into his cup, and now he wants to pour it into the pot to make it more liquidy? Who wants to answer? Mutar or asur?
Mutarim lachem.
Igal says mutar. That's opinion number one. Beautiful opinion. Anybody have a different opinion?
Well, if the water is already boiling, you can I think you're not making it hotter, so I would just say yes, you can.
Very nice answers, and I'm happy you both answered like this because that's what we're doing here today. We are learning new things. So let's explain. You are right that when I take a cup out of the samaval, let's say a cup of tea, and I transferred it into the cup, from the samaval into a cup, the water here is boiling. But it's only boiling according to what people say. According to halacha, kli sheni, once it left the first item that it was boiled into another item, it's not considered halachically boiled anymore. Halachically, I'm talking. I'll give you the story of the Gemara. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, his helper, Rav Yitzchak, wanted to warm up oil on Shabbat for him to rub it on his body for whatever reason. And so he was about to put it into the, let's call it samavar, into the boiling water. And Rabbi told him, no. Don't put the cup of oil into the boiling water. Because, I'm saying the Gemara doesn't say because, but rather he says, first, take a cup from that pool into another cup. Let's say, take a cup, and now it's not in the kli, it's not in that samavar that boiled anymore. It's already a different vessel. This is called kli sheni. Once it's kli sheni, now you could put the oil inside. But we're going to cook the oil. The water is boiling. The answer is no. Kli sheni eino mevashel. Once the water was moved from the samavar to samavar is called vessel number one. Let's remember the terms. Kli rishon is where it's boiled. Kli sheni, the second vessel, is the first place that it was transferred to. Kli sheni does not cook. Even if the water is still boiling, I took it out of the samovar. Boiling, boiling, boiling. But this does not cook. Why does it not cook? Because halachically it's considered cooled off. Why am I saying this? Because if I take that hot water and I pour it into the pot is considered still a kli rishon. That's the item where the food was cooked in. And I'm taking water that is halachically not cooked because it's in kli sheni, and I'm pouring it into a pot that is considered a cooking item because it's the first kli. It's considered as if I'm boiling that water. It's strange. There is a way around it, but I just want you to know the halacha. Kli rishon mevashel. If I put something, let's say an egg, I drop it directly into a samovar. Okay, egg and tea actually have a different halacha. We'll talk about those. Those are called kalei bishul. Those are so lightly cooked that even if you put them in a kli sheni in the second cup, those are the only items that halacha says, maybe a few more that by the definition called kalei bishul. There are a few things that may be cooked even in a kli sheni because it's very light to cook them. The examples that are familiar are tea and an egg. But other things do not cook. So what's the solution? I have an ochado right now, and it's not liquidy enough, and I want to add water. The solution is simple. Don't add into the pot. Take it out of the pot, put it into the bowl that you're going to put on the table. That bowl is kli sheni, right? It's not the pot anymore, it's kli sheni. Once that bowl is kli sheni, no matter how hot the nochado inside is, it's not considered something that can cook. And then I could take hot water from the samovar, also kli sheni, I pour it in, and so the right way to do it, never pour it directly into the pot. Pour it into the bowl that people are going to eat from. That clear? This is very important. This is a very,
What about if I put it directly from the samovar to the pot?
very good question. So it seems like, whoa, that's a great territory because I'm transferring it straight from kli rishon
Rishon to kli rishon.
into kli rishon. But what happens in the middle? It's a stop. They're not attached. The water for a second left the kli rishon and touched air. So in halacha, that is called irui mikli rishon. It means pouring from the first vessel. It's not considered as if it's in the vessel. So by definition, let's say if I take a steak and I put it into the kli rishon, into the samovar, I'm considered that I cooked the steak. But if I take the steak and I put it under the samovar and I turn on the hot water and it touches it directly, I'm considered that I cooked, but it's not considered that I cooked the whole steak. It's just considered mevashel kedei klipa, which means you cooked only the wrap of the steak. It has a lower level of heating, but it's still heating. And therefore that's a problem. Because once the water left the samovar, it got reduced, like let's call it half a reduction. It's not kli sheni, it's in the air, but it's irui mikli rishon. And when you pour that into the kli rishon, the pot, then you have a problem because the pot is kli rishon and it boiled that water that already a little bit cooled off. So that's a very good question. That is also forbidden. The right way to do it is use kli sheni.
Sorry, one more question. If we have a pot of eggs and potatoes, which are well cooked and everything by Shabbat morning already, it's not that part is done. But sometimes the water goes down and you feel like, oh, you're not going to be back in time. You want to add some more water so that it doesn't dry up. Has nothing to do with flavor, has nothing to do with cooking. So that would be a problem also because technically you're putting water into a cooking water. So that still has a problem?
Yes, that's a problem because you're going to cook that water. That water is
there's no solution to that because you cannot take it off for a second because if you take it off for a second and it cools down, so how do you remedy that situation?
The solution would be to do it through a goy.
You don't have a goy in the house.
Or in the morning when you put the eggs on the thing, before you put it onto the plata, before the Shabbat clock began. I don't know, Shabbat clock.
No, we have the eggs overnight. Just stays there the whole time.
There.
Yeah.
Problem.
That might be an issue.
Yeah. I would once I see the water is getting low, I would move the eggs to the part of the plata that is a little less hot.
That is less hot. You know?
Okay. Or put it on the second floor. You know what I mean? Like put it above.
Got it. Put something below. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Water, you're going to be boiling it. That's the problem.
The water is going to be an issue. Thanks.
Okay. Very good. So we did this. Now regarding kalei bishul. Okay. So I mentioned an egg and tea. If you ever notice when people make tea on Shabbat, the right way to do it is you can't put a tea bag in a cup and pour directly from the samovar, not only tea, anything, because that would be irui mikli rishon. Straight from the first to the second, we explained before, it's considered mevashel kedei klipa. It cooks the outside, right? But what if I took water into another cup? Now it's already kli sheni, and then I put the tea bag in. So with other things, that's not a problem. That's kli sheni. But since tea bag is called kalei bishul, it cooks easily. Even when you put it in the kli sheni, it's considered like it's cooked. So tea and egg is the only thing that you need to transfer it into another kli. Pour it from the second cup that you took from the samovar to cup number 1, and from cup number 1, you could pour it into cup number 2. Cup number 2, either the tea bag is already in there, or you put it after. There are different opinions. If you want to be strict, put the tea bag after, but even if it's already in there, it's fine, right? The irui mikli sheni, you have no problem. But as opposed to everything else, those that are lightly cooked, like tea and egg, you cannot put them in kli sheni, because for them, kli sheni is still mevashel. All right.
What's the thing about tea with the like straining the tea bag?
Very
Is
good.
there?
So we're gonna get to halachot of sochet, but there's two different things that you may be concerned about. One is the squeezing, but more is the straining than what people talk about over here. So what happens with the straining? When I hold a tea bag and it has the tea leaves within it, but it has like kind of a net. Let's call it a net around it. And when I dip it, tell me if this is what you're referring to. When I dip it into the tea, now I want to take out the tea bag, but sometimes I hold the tea bag above the cup of tea so that the last few drops will fall in. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the problem with that? You're right, there is a problem with that. The problem with that is that the reason why we put a net around the leaves is just so that they don't mix in our thing, but that was already pre-prepared. But if I hold the tea bag above the cup and wait till the last drops fall in, I'm showing that my intention right now is sifting. I'm sifting out the good and I'm keeping the bad, or however you want to call it. That type of sifting is a problem. So when you take out the tea bag, the mistake is to wait above the cup. Don't wait above the cup. Bring a plate next to it and take it right away and put it in the plate. If you do wait above the cup, some say that you are doing the problem of sifting of borer. That's called borer, but we still have.
But if you keep it in the water and just like bring it up and down in the water, it's okay.
Yeah, because you're just trying to get the tea to to
The color.
you cook, because we don't cook on Shabbat, but to release whatever is in it. Because once you have the water that was kosher, it's the water from Kli Shlishi already, right? That's it. So that water is even tea. It doesn't cook, so you could mix it in so that it releases what it releases. The problem is only in the exit. If you keep it in, of course, you have no problem. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. All right, so this we mentioned as well. Now, we have 2 minutes. I don't know if we're going to be able to touch this, but this is such a big topic. So I feel like it's worth starting, and maybe we'll continue it next time. Something called psik reshe, right? Just a foundation, maybe next time we'll elaborate. Psik reshe is, let's say, I forgot the light in the fridge on Shabbat. When I open the fridge door, is the light going to turn on? Yes. Is it maybe or for sure? The answer is for sure. That's considered psik reshe, which means my intention is not on it necessarily, but it's definitely going to happen when I do it. All right? So that's a whole topic in halacha. Psik reshe, if my intention is for it, I want the light in the fridge to turn on, everybody agrees, that's going to be a problem. But if my intention is not for the light, I just want to take out milk, but there's a light. So we'll discuss this next week, Bezat Hashem, what type of light. There's a difference between LED lights and the old lights. The old lights are mamash considered lighting a flame on Shabbat. LED is only electricity, which is derabanan. It's not from the Torah. The way to be turning on a fire on Shabbat is only with the old light bulbs. Some still have that in the fridges, but the new fridges already changed from that. So we'll talk about that. If my intention was not to turn on the light, and by opening that door, the light turned on and it's a LED. By the way, when you open a fridge, there are also a lot of sensors that we're not even aware to. It's not on Shabbat mode, temperature sensors and whatnot, that a lot of them turn on. But all of these are derabanan. They're not from the Torah. The only problem with the Torah is when you have some sort of fire. It doesn't have to be a literal fire, but something like a fire. So all those derabanan cases, when it's psik reshe, meaning when I'm opening the fridge and my mind is not on them, according to the Sephardim, we allow that. This has a lot of ramifications. Ashkenazim are more strict. We'll see next week. We'll touch this. But just so you know what psik reshe is, maybe next time we'll explain where the source of the expression psik reshe, cut off the head, where did that come from? That's what psik reshe means. All right, guys. There's all the Shem. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye.
Zag Baruch. Thank you, Ziv.
Okay.